there's differences in the ability of different countries, different regions, different sectors to reduce emissions. And so if you just did that all in isolation, so you said, right, you've got to cut your emissions, to net zero, but you have to do that in complete isolation from the rest of the world and from other sectors, then that's quite dangerous in terms of unintended consequences of, we could cut our emissions really radically in, say, the health sector, but that might be at really high cost, and it might have significant implications in terms of delivering on health. So the idea of carbon markets is to make use of the global market, I guess, in the ability to tackle climate change, to cut emissions. So it might be much more effective, for instance, to reduce emissions from coal mining or from gas exploitation in Nigeria compared to doing it in Texas, just in terms of the costs. And what that also allows you to do is, in theory, make sure the money flows to the developing world as well, so linking that together. So the idea of carbon markets in that way has been around for a long time. Under the Kyoto Protocol, going back to the 90s, there was a thing called the Clean Development Mechanism, which was about exactly that. It was about paying money, particularly for the rich countries who would cause a lot of the problems, saying, right, you need to pay money for development, which will also cut emissions in developing countries. So the carbon markets, if you're an economist, kind of make good sense, in terms of getting the least cost way to cut emissions and having a global market for that. Where they fall down, obviously, is like all markets, you can play the numbers a bit in terms of, making it look like you're cutting emissions when you're not really, or there's a risk that you double count. So you kind of say, okay, I've cut my emissions, so I'm reporting that, and I'm a very good company, or I'm a very good nation because I cut all my emissions. But then, the next week you sell all of those cuts that you've made to another country who says, oh, we've done really well as well because we've bought all these emission cuts. And what the atmosphere sees is not double the amount of effort, it just sees those initial cuts. So that double counting is a real issue.